Well, hello everyone. Tim Kiefer, MIBTOnline.com. Thank you for joining us tonight on our annual high school playoff prep meeting. We've done this the last couple years where we do this meeting to get everybody ready for either finishing their high school season when things are starting to get a little bit tight, or as we enter the playoffs. As we know, in playoff games, everything is tight, so most of the time. So we do this to try to get us prepared for those of us who are lucky enough to work in the postseason. But even if you're not working in the postseason, or you just happen to be a fan, you're going to learn a little bit more about football tonight, about football officiating, and the things that we do to make the game better, because that's what we do here. We try to make the game better through the official. That is our mission here at MIBT Online. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. We got a lot to get through tonight, so we're going to try to bang everything out. 1, 2, 3. We're going to bring the panel in here in a moment, but actually, you know what? I'm going to bring the panel in here first. So I think that's a good idea. We're going to start out with our guy. There he is, Robert Ybarra. Robert's going to be manning the text and the chat in the MIBT portals, and there is our friend Robert. Robert, how are you doing tonight? Oh, hang on, Robert. I got to turn your audio on. It's my fault. I do that every time because you guys like to do that cross-talk. So anyways, Robert, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm thirsty to hear from our viewers. It's going to be a large group tonight, a lot to learn, a lot of video to discuss. Thank you for hosting.
All right. Well, we're going to get to it here in just a second. I'd also like to bring in our expert, Mr. Bill Lamagna, who is kind enough to join us as well. Bill, how are you today?
Good night in the neighborhood. Yeah. Rain stopped from yesterday, so it was just a cool day, but not bad.
Well, once again, we're happy to have Bill here as well. And we've got with us as well Mike Bilica. Mike is with us. Mike, how are you?
Doing great. It's great to talk about playoff football. Can't wait.
All right, perfect. We're happy to have Mike with us as well. So let's get to our, like I said, we're going to get to our meeting. I'll give you the guidelines of what we're going to talk about tonight. So here it is. It's a playoff prep meeting. We have 12 plays that we're going to go through. We're going to focus in on some trick plays, game management, general mechanics, rule review, and anything else that might come up. So what we mean by this is that our first few plays will be trick plays, but we're going to talk about all of these in all of our plays. And if you have anything that you want to add or questions that might come up throughout the evening, here is our text line. You can text us there, 844-437-4345. Best way to get a hold of us. Or if you're in the chat, I forgot to mention that Mike is going to be looking at the YouTube chat. So if you happen to be on YouTube tonight, because we're streaming everywhere, we're streaming free, so you can chat on the YouTube chat as well, and Mike will be sure to relay that to us so we can get any questions answered. Or you can just text us, and then Robert will get the text, free text or whatever, your data rate supply or whatever, but you can just text us and boom, 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 there we go. So like I said, a lot to get to tonight. We're going to start off with our first play. Let me get that ready to go here, and let's see. We'll get that up and running. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to, in some parts of the country, they'll eat their dinner, they're still eating dinner, or here in the West Coast, we haven't had dinner yet, maybe. So, all right, let's go wide on our first play. So you can see right off the bat on our first play, we've got a little shadow here. So I want you to focus in on our shadowed player. You're going to see this play a couple different times. Here we go. This is our first trick play, I'll call it, of the evening. You'll see that the player here catches the ball. Yeah, looks pretty good, right? It's player. Well, wait a minute. What number is that player? Uh-oh, we're about to find out. Here's a replay. It looks like it might be number 76 catching a pass. So, can number 76 catch a pass? That becomes the question. Well, number 76 can catch a pass, but he can only catch a certain type of pass. And I don't think it's this one. Because if you look at our official down here at the bottom, who's actually officiating it very well, if you look down here, he is punching that as a forward pass, because if we walk it back, you can see where the quarterback throws the ball and where the trajectory of the ball is definitely forward. It looks like a good yard and a half to 2 yards forward, maybe even a little bit more. And our official is right on that. He's got it. He's got a forward pass. So the thing is that number 76 is not eligible, whether he's at the end of the line or not, to catch a forward pass by rule, right? Ineligible by number, cannot catch a pass in high school. We don't have the reporting, and I think everybody knows that. But the reason why this play is important, and I'm going to go to Robert here in a minute because he may have a little bit more perspective on it, but the reason why we're showing this play is that this is a new play that a lot of high schools are putting in. And the reason they're putting it in is because a year ago or a couple years ago, a team actually in this conference won a semifinal on a similar play. The difference is that the ball was backwards and then the guy ran it in, not forward. So this is a popular play. You may see this in your playoff game as a last second, throwing out all the stops. You might see the tackle eligible, even though he's not eligible. He can catch a backward pass, can't catch a forward pass. You could see this. So that's why we are showing this play, because it is applicable. And I want to get back to the play in a moment, but first off, because there's a couple other aspects of it that we're going to go through before we move to our next one. But I'll bring in Robert here real quick on this one. And Robert, you were on the game here. So what was your perspective when it happened? And we don't show the call we ended up getting the correct call, but it took a while. I'm going to walk through that here in a second. But what was your perspective on the game?
Yeah, just a couple elements that most fans or viewers wouldn't know is the fact that the coach did mention to our crew before the game that they were going to execute this play. And we, of course, reminded the head coach that, of course, since the player is not eligible by number, that pass needed to be a backward pass. And the coach, of course, understood that. It was not executed as described to us. However, we were not surprised when it was occurring. Our wing, as it's shown there in the video, did punch forward. But during the live ball, as this pass is being thrown, our referee was on the headset. So we had O2Os, which is official to official radios. And we were communicating, our referee was communicating on the radio, I have that as forward. I have that as forward. And he wanted confirmation from the wing because he couldn't see the wing's arm. So at the end of the play, there was a quick, easy discussion. Yes, that pass was forward. We knew it was received by number 76, which is an illegal touching. So we did have a 5-yard penalty marked from the spot of that first touching with the loss of down. As far as the penalty enforcement, there was no surprise. We were fortunate. The team that executed the play, although did not agree with us after we enforced the penalty, few plays later, they had a TV screen behind their sideline. They saw the replay on their own. And then they agreed that we did enforce it properly. So that's kind of the inside scoop on that situation.
It's kind of funny how a lot of these teams are going to those plays right away. Now, we're not allowed to use replay in high school. We shouldn't, and they shouldn't be referencing it. But it's fun sometimes when they tell you got it right. And it's amazing how many times they do tell us we got it right in a play like this. Let's go through the penalty enforcement real quick before we move on to our next play, because that was the next aspect of this play. So the referee had it as forward, which is fine, but it really does fall on, from a mechanic standpoint, it really would fall on this official or maybe the backside wing if or flank. They're the ones who are going to really know if it's forward or backward. And I think if I'm the referee and I have it forward and I know number 76 had caught the pass, I am probably throwing a flag. And you know what? If I'm wrong, that's fine, because we can pick it up after I talk. But this spot is important. And I think Robert said they did do it at the spot, but if we don't have anybody throwing a flag here, are we guessing on the spot or did somebody remember it? Hopefully somebody did. But remember, this is a loose ball play. This play is a loose ball play because of forward pass. However, and so then the spot of enforcement on a play like this is the previous spot. Loose ball plays is a previous spot enforcement. However, the foul occurs behind the basic spot. So the basic spot is the previous spot, but the foul occurs behind the basic spot right here. So then we're going to walk off our penalty from the spot of the foul on this play. So just remember, we have to walk through our penalty enforcement and make sure that we do a play, or we enforce a play like this correctly. A lot of times oh yeah, we just go to the spot. Well, let's get to the spot of the foul properly and then enforce it that way based off of our sound penalty enforcement. So that way when we have a screwy one, we're always walking through the same process of penalty enforcement. What was the type of play? Loose ball play, previous spot, but the foul occurs behind the basic spot, so we're going to the spot of the foul. 5 yards, lost it down, they got it right. So if this happens in your game, be wary of that tackle eligible play, because the tackles aren't eligible. But you may see it. So that's our first play. And actually before I do that, I'm going to bring Robert in real quick again. Robert, do we have any text or chats or questions or anything like that?
Yeah, just some comments. There was no reporting. There are officials on board that do both collegiate and high school, and we do have good chat discussing that in high school. You can't report this to make it legal, on a forward pass. Just as a reminder. So thank you, Mike Billica, for communicating that along with these other viewers that are commenting on this issue.
Yeah, there is no reporting. I thought it was very clear. I'll be very clear again. No reporting. You can't report in high school. That is not a rule in high school football. Hasn't been. But backward pass, anybody can catch a backward pass. Anybody on the field can catch a backward pass, not a forward pass. All right, so our next play, I just got this play literally a few hours ago. And this one is a nutty play. It's off of TikTok, so hopefully you can see it. I know it's got that weird justification. But you can see it says wrong ball trick play. And now the quarterback is under center, okay? He's under center, and the center gives him the ball, and now the quarterback is walking to the sideline saying wrong ball, and he turns and runs up, and now you've got run, Johnny, run. We got a touchdown. Now, if you look, going back to the beginning of the play, I mean, technically that's a legal snap, but he's saying wrong. This is the wrong ball, and the center gives him the wrong ball between his legs, and now he is going to say, all right, wrong ball, and turn and run. So I am going to bring in Bill on this one to start off the discussion, because this one is one of those crazy ones where you go, really? And Bill, we can make trick plays. This time of year, people are gonna, the teams are gonna, throw caution to the wind and do stuff like this to try to get that edge. You see a play like this, I mean, we can walk through legal, illegal. How would you rule? What would you go, or what would you do if you saw a play like this?
I'll give you two things. First of all, it is illegal. Yeah, this is not football. That type of deception of getting everybody to stop as you go to the sideline, 15 yards previous spot. And I might hit the head coach with it. The other thing, and this was something I recommended once in a youth football game, was when he comes out of there and says wrong ball, blow the whistle, take the ball, walk him to the sideline, and say, let me get you the right ball. And I'd tell the coach, you pull this stunt again, and this is what it's going to cost you, along with the unsportsmanlike conduct. Now we'll get the ball back, but don't pull a play like this again. So, but no, illegal, period.
So, I mean, and hopefully, like you mentioned, like if a coach says something to us like this before the game and describes a play, we can just nip it in the bud there. But sometimes they don't share this stuff with us, unfortunately, on a play like this, and then we just have to rule as such. So I'm going to throw it over to Robert here real quick. Robert, any chats or text on this one? Does everybody seem to agree? Does anybody think that, hey, if they execute it right, they get this play?
Okay, Brian from Alaska is saying, kill it, UNS, all day long. We cannot allow this travesty to be happening in our game. So that's a great comment by Brian, and we thank him for that. Kind of echoes what Bill was saying. But we do have a question from a viewer that's asking, what if they're saying or asking something other than about the ball? What if they don't say something's wrong with the ball, but they're just moving in an awkwardly way towards the sideline? Do you have comments related to that?
So that's another one that we have seen. That's a good question in regards to if the quarterback just starts turning and says something like, I need the play in a motion, doing something to distract the defense, and now they snap it to the up back. We've seen that play before as well. I'll go back to Bill, and then I'm going to go to Mike on this one, because this is more of there's a lot of opinion on this, on the legal, illegal. I tend to agree with Bill, and I'll give you my opinion on handling this play. But Bill, what if the quarterback says something else, and then they actually snap it to an up back or somebody? What's your line here on this?
Football's a game of deception, and that's the argument that you're going to get from people that say these things should be legal. But from how you described it, again, I have an illegal play. Like Brian said, shut it down. Tag the coach with 15, and tell him to play football.
Okay.
No place in the game for these things. Play football.
Play football. All right, I like it. I'm going to go to Mike now. Mike, anything on the Yahoo, or I'm sorry, the YouTube chat, or what's your opinion on this if you were to see a play like this?
Oh, this is definitely deception, and this is the unsportsmanlike variety. It's also important that we don't treat this like a dead ball foul that's normally unsportsmanlike that happens during a play. This is unsportsmanlike conduct at the snap. So that means we have the ability by rule to enforce from the previous spot. If we don't consider this to be unsportsmanlike until he's running down the sideline, by rule, it's a succeeding spot. So we want to make sure that they don't get to keep the touchdown and then go 15 yards from the kickoff.
So I actually have a little bit of a different take on this play. I don't think it's legal, but Bill mentioned it. I don't know if I'm going to penalize this. What I'm going to do is when he says it's the wrong ball, I'm going to believe I, as the official, made the mistake. We have the wrong ball in there. We gave the team the wrong ball, and I'm going to kill it. Now, Bill did mention it, so I'm not going to take all the credit, but I don't even know if I'm going to go penalty on this. I'm just going to kill it, say you got the wrong ball, and if the coach starts going, no, your player said you had the wrong ball. We have to get you the right ball. We're playing with incorrect equipment. That's, I think, how personally I'm going to handle it. We're not even going to get to this point. We're not going to get to a foul because I'm going to say, let's get the right ball in if you really, truly, in fact, have the wrong ball. All right, we'll throw it back to Robert here just for a second. Any last minute text or questions on this, and we'll move on.
Well, first, our viewers value what you're saying, Tim and Bill and Mike, and that's very, very well received. So we can move on. Although they all deem it to be an unfair act, they all deem it to be unsportsmanlike conduct, but they really do embrace what you're saying. Kill it, and let's move on, and let the coach know on the sideline, hey, listen, we're not having this in our contest today.
Nope, I think that's how. And if you're on the fence of I don't want to penalize this, kill it. Just call it. Let's go. Let's get the right ball and let's play some real football. All right, on to our next one here. So I'm going to pull the text line down just for a moment. So this play here, we're going to see, this looks like a standard formation. It's 1st and 10, no problems. Everything looks great, okay? So now this is another one that we're seeing a lot of teams run. They like the spread. They like to take their linemen and spread them out. All right, so when you see this right here, as officials, what are we thinking? Are we getting a little nervous? Are we going to be like, uh-oh, how are we going to officiate a play like this when we see everybody spread out? Because this isn't the A11 or the A1 or whatever like that was offense was from a few years ago. This is simply a spread formation where the interior linemen are still covered up. They're still interior linemen. They're just not in your standard or normal positioning. I would say when you see a formation like this, the one thing that we didn't mention about trick plays is that if a team is going to run a trick play, not like the one we just had, but maybe like the one we had before, forward, backward pass, or a play like this, it's got to be perfect. So there might be times where we might let, if this was a slot back, slide a little bit, blade of grass type of a thing. If they're going to put this guy out here and this guy out there, they better clearly be on the line of scrimmage. His helmet better be breaking, the waist, of the center. It's got to be clear that they're on the line of scrimmage. If they're going to try to run a goofy formation like this, you want to make it be legal. Where, like I said, other times we might not. So I'm going to let this play run out, and there's some interesting things that happen. Like from a standpoint of, now it ends up being a pass behind the line it's behind the line of scrimmage, So really, it doesn't matter in regards to our blocking. It would matter on illegal formation. Our eligibility doesn't come into play here since it's a pass to a back, and it's not like the other play we had. But I do want to talk to Robert real quick from a mechanics standpoint, and because I'm curious from Robert. Robert, you see a formation like this as a back judge. I'll go back to the play so you can kind of walk through. Where are you keying? If you see a wide formation like this, where is your key now as a back judge go?
Yeah, I mean, to that point, you still have to go to your fundamentals and you look at your strength. You look to see if any player is pressed, right? And in this particular situation, you have breathing. You have absolute a lot of breathing. No one's pressed. And to that point, now you're going to read the play and let it come to you. So, Tim, in this case, it looks balanced based on the number of receivers on both sides. Obviously, your strength now, by definition, will be to the line judge side, but that's just by definition. Once the ball's snapped, you're gonna read the play and let it breathe out to you as a back judge.
All right, I like it. So that's where I would agree with that. You're just going to kind of read the play. No one is pressed, so let's go from there. Now, I'm going to let the play go now, so now we know where everybody's looking. I want you to focus in on what happens at the end here. So now you've got this player here, and now, I don't know if you saw that, you're going to get a replay of this, a close-up replay of the takedown by the defender. Here it is again in real time. So my question now to everyone out there, and I'll put the text line up there again, is this a legal takedown or a legal play or a legal tackle or however you want to call it? We're going to start with Mike on this one. Mike, do you have this is the defense legal? You can take him down. I mean, he's a runner, right?
Yeah, he's allowed to go after the runner. He's, we have there's the old tripping rule that I don't see happening here on this play. I just see him diving after the runner. I also see him maybe getting pushed somewhat in the back into the runner, which wouldn't be a foul there either. I don't see anything he did illegal. I may need to watch it again, and you may need to tell me what I'm looking for.
No, I mean, I'm looking here at the end of the play. We'll go back to the play, and I'm sure Robert's going to be getting some text on this, and I'll ask Bill here after I play it one more time. Because remember, I will say this. Remember in high school, they changed a rule a few years ago. You used to be able to trip the runner in high school. That was the only person that could be tripped. And they changed it a few years ago where now you cannot have tripping at all. Anywhere on the field, it's illegal personal contact. So going back to the play, you have to ask yourself right here on the slow-mo, is this a trip? Does this fall into the definition of a trip by his contact there? Now, like I said, we're just looking at this at one angle, but you have to ask yourself, because if it is, then it's a foul. I can't take the runner down in this method if I believe this to be a trip. So I'll go to Bill now on this one. Bill, is this a trip? Do you think that the runner was tripped by the defender?
If his action was on his own to go down into that quote slide feet first, then you'd have a trip. But I think the benefit of the doubt is going to go to it not being a trip. Hands in the back, he might be being pulled down from behind. From this camera angle, I can't tell. But if that's as a result of that block, legal or illegal, that put the defender down, then I'd say no trip.
All right, so you're going to go. If you believe that from that angle, though, that's fair. That's a fair assessment. I'm going to pull Robert back in on this one. Robert, tell me what the texts are, but I'm going to ask you a specific question as well about this play. Player safety. This is a player safety foul. So in the end, if we have doubt, to Bill's point, to Mike's point, but if we have doubt, we're probably going to have to call on this because it is a player safety foul. And just let me know what the viewers are saying as well.
Yeah, what the viewers are saying is foul for tripping. Bart Newman, thank you for chiming in. He's a state final official, excellent official. Scott Sutherland, thank you so much for chiming in. We have this as a foul for tripping. Now, you could have offsetting fouls. We do have some viewers that deem that contact by the offensive player possibly blocking illegally, that's one where, well, you know what, we're not really focused on that. But if that's what you call it, I see that. But at the same time, some viewers are even kind of associating this to a soccer player, because in soccer you have the sliding kick to dislodge the ball from a player. So they kind of associated that kind of a mechanic play in this particular situation, which I can see. Officiating soccer, I see that as a viable mechanic by the player. He's slide kicking to his opponent. So safety, if you're erring on safety, supported, is this a foul by definition? If you deem it to be a trip, that's how you would have to explain your judgment. We have tripping. We deemed it that was the action by the player. So erring on safety is a positive.
My personal opinion on this play is I'm very comfortable with a tripping foul here. And I don't see, and I'm going to go back to the play, I do not see the defense or the offensive player on the block, the potential block, extending arms. Remember, touching is not a foul. I'm looking for an extension. I don't see it till after he's already on the ground. You see he's kind of touching, and now you see like he's already on the ground when you see that extension, at least in my opinion. So I'm probably not going to equate that action to a foul, but I would be good with a trip on this. From the player's safety aspect of it, it does to me appear to be a side tackle, but we are looking at it from an angle. I would much prefer to look at it from the angle that the official was. And by the way, the official did throw, I believe, a flag on this as an illegal block. Or I'm sorry, an illegal tripping, a tackle. And Robert, I see your face. You got something else, Robert?
Yeah, we have a lot of comments on what they're calling. We have some officials that are calling a foul for a block in the back and also for an illegal tripping foul. And that's great. As long as you can explain your judgment. And also, Tim, I love what you're saying here. If we err on player safety, that's what we want to have a mindset going into our contests. There is a safety element related to that. And if you're erring on that judgment, then I think you're doing an excellent job. You're definitely giving 100% in your effort.
Right. And if you can explain, you saw what you saw, you call what you call. So I agree with that. So thank you for everybody who's chiming in. We're having a lot of fun tonight, but we're moving on to our next play. Lots of plays to get to. We're on to our play number 3 here. So let me get that one up ready to go. This is another, I'll call it a quasi-trick play. It ends up not really being that, but you're starting to see a lot of this. You're going to see where they're shifting around, and now the player that's closest to us is on the end. You see 4 in the backfield. And as the play goes out, just focus in on those 2 players, because you're going to see what ends up happening. This ends up being a run, so it ends up not being an issue. But the guy inside is actually number 80. You can see he blocks. So it's a run, not a problem. But it's important to note that on these types of plays, where everybody is. And if you're the short wing or the sideline official, you need to know that this guy is covered. And the reason is because if they end up passing the ball on this play, and that number 80 goes downfield, you have to know that. You have to know that they were covered. And they're doing this. Teams are doing this on purpose. They are covering up eligible receivers to confuse the defense, to see if they can draw coverage, knowing that either they're going to do a swing pass, they're going to do behind line of scrimmage, they're going to do a run, they're going to do something that's not going to be illegal, but they're trying to draw coverage away and confuse the defense in regards to who is eligible and who is not. So it is important that we rule and judge a play like this and not try to put that guy in the backfield saying, what is he covering up using our football IQ and saying, why is he covering up the tight end? And maybe that's what they want to do. Maybe they do want to cover up the tight end. So before we move on to our next play, I'm gonna bring Mike in on this real quick. So Mike, I'm sure you've probably seen this a lot where people are covering up the tight end or covering up an eligible receiver to confuse the defense. Mm-hmm. Have you experienced that yourself?
I have, and we have tight ends that are running 1-yard drag routes. So they're taking a hard step downfield and then just running a play right down the side, right down the line of scrimmage, again, trying to draw coverage. And then they can go ahead and throw the ball down the field as far as the coaches are concerned, because that receiver didn't go downfield. As long as he doesn't go 2 yards downfield, right, they get the expanded neutral zone. So we have to be aware of that, and we have to hold that line of scrimmage and make sure we officiate that whenever we have eligible numbers covered.
Right. So, and remember, they still have to comply with all the formation, numbering rules, unless they're in a numbering exception situation, which downs 1 through 3 can only be the long snapper, and somebody's got to be 10 yards back or in a position to kick a field goal. Remember that. Or if it's 4th down, then they can do whatever. But in regards to, they have to be in that formation. Somebody's got to be 10 yards behind, or you've got to have somebody in position to catch the ball, a holder 7 yards, and somebody 3 yards in a position to kick the ball. So that's just a real quick reminder. They can't, if they're going to run a formation like this and try to confuse the defense, it better be a legal formation. Robert, I see you smiling. I'm going to throw the text line up. I'm sure people already have it, but what do you got? You got anything from the text?
No, they're just enjoying the dialogue. They're enjoying all these plays, Tim. I say keep going. It's fantastic.
All right, well, we'll keep it rolling. Just this is all good stuff. It's gonna get better here as we move on. All right, so now to our next play, and we talked a little bit about plays like this. We actually did a whole meeting on onside kicks, but I wanted to remind everybody about onside kicks as we get through the playoffs, because they're going to even, like I said, everything's going to become a little bit more tighter in regards to how we call things. We want to make sure that we're ready to go for an onside kick. We should always be ready for an onside kick, no matter what down or what time it is in the game. But here you go. I'm going to pull the text line down so we can see the full view of the play. Here we go. We got this play here. It's an onside kick. So you got a block that happens pretty much right at the time the ball was potentially touched by or recovered by the kicking team. Here's a slow-mo replay of it. All right, so your question is right there. Does that block occur prior to the ball going 10 yards? It is really, really, really close. And you know what? We're not down the line of scrimmage. We're not looking at this one, from that vantage point. So on a play like this, whatever the officials call, we're going with it. But were they ready? If you're the official who's on this receiver's restraining line, are you ready for a barn burner like this to be able to rule on whether or not that contact occurs, that a potential legal block? Because remember, the kicking team is restricted from blocking on a free kick until they're eligible to touch the ball. When are they eligible to touch the ball? When it goes 10 yards or a receiving team touches it, blah, blah, blah. But let's just leave it at the 10-yard thing on this play so we don't confuse it. That's when they can block. It's really close. I'm going to go with the officials on this play. But I want Bill to keep an eye, because I'm going to come to Bill here in a minute. I'm going to let this play continue to play out. And there's a couple of things I want to point out that could be important as we move forward through whatever games we have. All right, so whether we call this or not, we'll just leave it. Now just watch the play. Now watch the officials. You got the official at the bottom, you have the official at the top. Starting the clock. We do technically have a legal touching here. We have the ball touched. This isn't a fair catch. This is a quick recovery, but we probably should get a wind and then a kill. Okay, that's what I'm hoping that's what we would do on this play, because time matters usually in these situations. Now, but they are killing the clock, so we never started it, but we're killing it. All right, I don't see a point or any direction. The official at the top of the screen is kind of coming in hard, but we don't. It's just kind of like, and the ball, everybody's walking away. You would think at this point we are signaling possession. Somebody's got something here, and if we don't, then if we need to get together, maybe we need to hustle a little bit more to get together, just show that we have to talk about this one. But I'd be looking for a possession point at this point in this play. But as I let it continue, I want you to focus in on the bottom of the screen, and out there in viewer land, I want you to think about if you were the officials on this game. Look at the coach. Look at the coaches. Look at the coaches. So you see the coaches where they're at. You can kind of see looks like one coach is very animated. He's pointing. The other coach is all the way out, kind of walking. And this official is walking away from the potential conflict or whatever you may want to call it. So I'm going to go to Bill. Bill, how would you like, if this was your crew and you were the crew chief, or maybe you were this official, A, how would you like this to be handled by your crew? Or B, if it's you, the official, how would you handle something like this?
Just looking at it as an isolated play, I like the way the official handled it. Just move away from it. You're going to get an opportunity then once your teammates or your crewmates see what you're spotting the ball to head back to the sideline, and coach better come with you, or he better beat you to the sideline. If you've got a game where I've had enough discussions with the coach and now this one happens, that could be a different situation. But just as a pure play that I'm seeing for the first time and don't know the game tempo and situations, I like the way he handled it.
Okay, so you're like the walking away and just kind of leave it behind you. All right, I'm going to ask Mike what his opinion.
The other part to it too is that I keep walking in on this here. If I am going to get him for a flag for it, it's going to be it's pretty obvious now, but it's going to be more obvious because he's going to follow me in even further.
Okay, that's fair. So I'm going to bring Mike in. Mike, this happens to you if you're the official here, or how would you handle it? Would you do something different?
I think that if he gets out past the numbers, I think that's a big warning. I'm gonna tell him, Coach, I'll get to you. I'll try to diffuse it as much as I can. But like Bill said, I'm gonna keep coming in because if he comes all the way out onto the field protesting a call, that's an unsportsmanlike conduct act. And the best way to nip that in the bud is with the flag, I think. If we gave him that warning, we talked to him already. But as Bill said, this is the first time. This is a critical play. Everybody's animated. There's a lot of passion. I'll give the coach a little bit of rope, but I'm also not going to let him off if he's protesting out on the field.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you my opinion on this here in a second. I'm gonna bring in Robert and see how are we doing out there in viewerland? What are some of the viewers' comments on this?
Tim, there are a lot of comments about that block. They want to revisit it when we have an opportunity to see if the kicking player lowered the crown of his helmet. And then Brian from Alaska saying, "Hey, this is a money call. You got to make a decision and sell it." So I really respect him saying that. But yeah, there were a lot of viewers that wanted that shot there. Tim, good job.
I don't think he's lowering his helmet at all. Actually, if you can kind of see, I know it might be a little bit blurry on your end, but he can see what he's hitting, and they happen to maybe their face masks or maybe the top of their helmets tend to collide. But I see arms in front. I don't see this as him leading with his helmet or using it, as a weapon, or I see this as a block personally, and you'll see it in real time. I guess in real time it looks a little worse than it is, but I think this is just football, and sometimes heads clank, unfortunately. So personally, I don't have it. So was that it, Robert? Pretty much everybody. Yeah. What about the coaches? Anybody say anything about that?
They're probably a little bit. I may need another half a minute to review the.
Okay, that's fine. I'll give you my take on this. I tend to disagree with Bill and Mike on this. I don't know if I'm going to handle this, if I'm this wing official. And I guess you're going to have to know the climate of the game, if this is the first time and if it's a, banger or whatever. But I think first off, I'm going to be signaling something right now. If I'm this official, I'm signaling first down one way or the other. Then I might turn around. Right at this point, right here, and start coming back and pulling these guys with me. Because I'm telling you, from a film standpoint, this looks terrible. I just don't think this looks very good. It looks like the official's ignoring the situation. He's not dealing with it. You have coaches out to the numbers protesting a call. I believe this needs to be handled. I would have handled it differently. This official, due respect to Mike and Bill on this, I just am going to turn around. I want these guys to come with me and get off. And because to be honest with you, my personal philosophy is I don't really care what they're saying. And I feel like I have a thick skin, and they can yell and scream at me all they want on the white. I don't care. Well, they don't have a white on this field, but I want them off the field. I want this spectacle, whatever it is, to happen on the sideline, not on the field. That's just my take on it personally. So, Robert, I see kind of typing away over there. Anybody out there have something different?
No, you saw me typing because we're getting asked what if questions, Tim. So I was responding to them, which I think are valid, but I don't want to confuse all the viewers at once. So if we have closure on this takeaway on how you're handling it, then we can move on to the what ifs. But I don't want to muddy the water quite yet.
All right. Well, let's head on to our next play then. So this
okay,
one.
Well, okay. So if we're Tim, wait. Let me pause you there. If you're done with that, do you want to add a what if to this play situation?
Well, I mean, we can add a what if it's pertinent. If you believe it's pertinent.
I responded back to this viewer. If they come back with more questions, then I'll come back to you. So let's move forward.
Cool. We're gonna go to our next play then. But I appreciate the feedback. Really, I do. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna pull the text line down here real quick. All right, so we're gonna look at this play. It happens at the end of the play. All right, so you're gonna see it at the end of the play. You're gonna get a couple of different replays of this. You're gonna see the contact. Now, my question for you is this contact legal or illegal? Now we have to ask ourselves: is this a defenseless player? Is this a defenseless receiver? What type of contact is this a target? Was the contact unnecessary to incite roughness? Just because he's defenseless, we have to have another aspect of what type of contact. Is this a non-football act? Ask yourself that question on a play like this. One more time, you'll see it in slow motion. Do we have, obviously, like I said, we'll get to watch it in slow motion. I'll watch it we should watch it in real time too, because in real time it could look different. It does look like a tough hit. Now, I don't know if you can see at the top of the screen, the back judge is throwing a flag for illegal contact on this one. So now, the question becomes, do you have illegal contact? I'll start with Mike on this play. Mike, you see this play, you're the back judge, you're the wing official, do you have illegal contact?
No, he went in wrapping. He hit him hard, but he hit him low. He went down to the ground with him. There was no rise, there was no launch. There was nothing hit that indicates unnecessary roughness to me.
Okay, cool. I'm going to go to Bill now. Bill, on this play, would you have an illegal contact of any sort?
I think our angles from the side here is better than what the back judge saw. He probably saw the helmet disappear from the defender and made an assumption of the hit with the helmet. But I'd like to see this wing on this side find out from the back judge what he's got, and then I would like to see this wing official take him off the call.
I agree with that. I think this is legal contact, and I would have liked to have seen that the back judge and the wing official talk. Now, we're going to go back to the play, and I'm going to have Robert comment on this aspect of the play, and Bill and Mike, you can comment as well. Kind of along the lines of the other play. So here it is again in slow motion, but then you're going to get it in real time again, and I want you to focus on the coach on that sideline down here at the bottom of the screen, who's right on this, like he's in the coach's, he's actually in the restricted area. I don't know if you can really see that down at the bottom. He's in the restricted area, so he's not where he's supposed to be. And watch him after this call and see what he does. And he throws his helmet or throws his headset and then kind of protests the call. Let's see if I can get it again here. And he's in the restricted area. Here you go. He doesn't know. This could be OPI. But he's thinking it's some sort of other call because he's really upset. All right. So my question to Robert on this one, I'm going to go to Robert first. Robert, we got to do something about this one, right?
We do. Relative to the coach you're talking about? Or
Yes.
100%. Let's talk about the play first. Unanimously, and I mean unanimously, and there have been so many, tens of 20s of responses. This is a legal hit. No one has a foul. But ask yourselves during a game now, if you see your crewmate throwing, right, do you have the courage to bring in information so that we get it right as a crew? Because if you allow that back judge just to go in and report to the referee, we have some referees here who are viewing that said they're gonna accept the information from the back judge. Who's the referee to challenge that? Bill has best practices on how to question to see if there's any chinks in the armor, of course. But in most cases, the referee's going to report the foul to the press box, right? So we have to be courageous as a crew to bring in information. And as an official, as a back judge, we need to be receptive to a crewmate's information. And that would mean, hey, you're not going to love your flag. That clean was shoulder to chest. Yes, I know it's defenseless player, but there was no launch, there was no aim, and there was no contact above the shoulders. Let's pick this puppy up, right? And that's what you're going to have to explain to the coach. Now, Tim, you're asking something beyond that when you have the behavior of the coach on the sideline. And since I spoke so much, I'll let you or Bill or Mike.
No, I wanted your opinion on that. I wanted your opinion on the coach. I'm sure we're going to have to do something about that. I mean,
we have to. We cannot allow this type of behavior to occur on a sideline. I like Gene Jackson, who spoke on the previous play on that onside kick attempt. When we allow coaches onto the field and behave in a manner, the opposing coach witnesses that. So now they feel like the guardrails have expanded to allow certain behavior to be fair. If it's being allowed on one sideline, then it should be allowed on my sideline. So now you have an element of a game that's not going to be well received by your state administrators, let alone your own crew and the behavior of the contest in general. So how are you going to handle this? You're going to throw a flag up, and now we're going to talk how we're going to administer the situation of this infraction, right? Are we going to give them a sideline warning? I know crews that do that.
Yeah.
Are we going to have something beyond
a
sideline warning?
You might. I don't. It's got to be flagged one way or the other. If you want to go sideline
100%.
warning, because we're talking about, and I'm going to get to you, Mike. I see you. It's important on a play like this that one they hit. Okay, it's an emotional game. If this is a playoff game, we're talking playoff game. This is huge. That play can swing the game. Okay, so you want to make them be big. It's got to be big. It's got to be legal. We're not going to guess on these. Sure, we're going to err on player safety, absolutely, but make it be big. You get a coach who reacts like that, very least you're going with a sideline warning. And if you've already done something, then we're going to have to move on to the next. But that type of behavior, in my opinion, cannot be tolerated. It has to be addressed in some manner. You don't want to go 15 because you think it's going to impact the game? Fine. But you got to put a flag on the ground for something, in my opinion. All right, Mike, I saw you waving your hands there. What do you got, buddy?
Well, the thing is, when you have a flag and the official also has information, I mean, probably that wing is going to be the one who's going to throw that flag for the coach on the field yelling at him. Another official has got to come and handle that coach so that that wing official can cleanly get to the back judge to communicate if he's got that as a legal hit. Because the last thing you want is for him to be tied up with that coach, and now the appearance is to the other coach, well, I got an injured player on the field, and you just let that coach talk us off of that foul. And because you're busy over there talking to him, I think we got to get the referee and that wing official and the back judge in a conference so we can handle whatever happens with that foul before we talk to either coach, so that there's no appearance that there was any kind of influence from that coach's complaining. And then we definitely have to get in for unsportsmanlike conduct. I don't have this as a sideline warning at all.
Well, that's fair. I mean, that's what you would go. I mean, I could support either based off of the game situation, and if you're there, you're the one who have to deal with the sideline the rest of the game. All right, let's go to our next one, our next play here. We're gonna pull the play up, go wide. All right, this is a pass play. We're gonna be looking down, and it's potential DPI play. It's flagged for DPI. You're going to get a couple angles of it. You get the end zone shot. You're going to get a close-up and a replay of it. So here it is from the close-up, slow motion. Here it is again from the end zone, slow motion. So it was flagged as DPI. I'll let it play through one more time so everybody can see it. So I'll start with Bill on this one as we let it play. You know, you see a play like this, Bill. I mean, remember, we always like to make the joke, you and I, on a lot of our videos that touching is not a foul. And I got to remember that face guarding is no longer a foul in high school. A few years ago, this would have easily been a foul. But, you know, on a play like this, how would you want it ruled, and how do you think you would rule on it?
It's pass interference.
Okay.
He's playing through him. He might be looking back at the ball, but that's almost a cop-out look, so he can get away with the contact. You still can't. You don't have a right to restrict the other player who's got a right to that area, and that's what he's doing.
So he's okay. So that's what you have. I'm going to go with. We'll go to Mike here real quick. Mike, on this play, do you have DPI as well?
I do, but I will also point out that I've got some comments from the YouTube chat on this one. It's kind of split. We have some folks that are saying it's clean, and some folks that are saying it's DPI. Not a lot of ambiguity in the middle. But I think there's a consensus that we don't have the greatest look, although we do have the end zone view this time that you were asking for on the earlier play. My DPI in this play is definitely a physical restriction, and there is no way he's playing football. He is driving this receiver away from where he wants to go by basically having his arm across his upper body and neck. So I don't see this as even borderline face guarding. This is a physical restriction.
All right, physical restriction. I like that. All right, Robert, I threw up the text line. What are, Mike said the YouTube guys, people are kind of like 50-50. What is it in our world now?
Okay, in our world, in our text magic number 844-437-4345 is unanimous. Everyone has DPI. Everyone has DPI. No one on the fence. Maybe it's coming in clearer on the MIBTonline.com channel. So that's where we sit here, Tim.
All right. So here's the funny thing: is like I won't disagree with you guys, but I'm going to point out a couple things on this that I want to discuss real quick, just so people understand. Well, first, remember, if you're going to call this DPI, which I don't have a problem with, but you better put it in a category. What's the category? Mike threw out some words. Is this early contact, not playing the ball? Is this an arm bar? Is this a playing through the man? What is it? Have a category when you call it, because what you're most likely going to get is the face guard is not a foul in high school anymore, and he's looking back for the ball. You're going to hear stuff like that, which, whatever, that's fine, but have the category. Have the category ready to go. If I'm calling DPI in this, I'm going to say early contact and he wasn't playing the ball, because what it does, there's some question: is he going back? Is he restricting the player? Maybe you got that. Maybe he said it's not really a grab and restrict, but maybe it was a cut. I mean, it's not really a cutoff either, but you can kind of go, which way you're going to go. But just have a category. Don't just say it's DPI because it's funky. Funky's not a foul. That's one another Bills thing. Funky is not a foul. You got to have a category for it. One last thing I want to point out here, from a mechanic standpoint, is. And I'm going to pull up the draw so I can really show everybody what we're talking about here. So here's the play again, and you kind of can see. I don't know if you can see out here. You can see. I want to show you. Look at our H. Okay, what our H is doing. All right, what's he doing? He's kind of walking. All right, and you'll see it better here. All right. And the only point I'm going to make here is that I don't care what type of shape you're in or whatever, but this stuff shows up on film. It would have been nice to see this official. Is he going to get all the way down here? Absolutely not. But it would have been nice to see just a tad more hustle. Show a little bit of effort, just a little bit of effort, because, like I said, I'm not trying to be critical, even though it probably sounds like I am. It's just this stuff shows up on film. And when we get to that, when we're showing it on film, it's unfortunate because we'll see it, and a coach will see it, or an evaluator will see it. And if this was a banger play, now that people are going to say you were out of position and blah, 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 blah. So just remember that when you are officiating. Try to get yourself in a position to make the call. Robert, real quick, anything else, or can we move on? Are we good?
I think we can move on, Tim. We're good.
All right, we can move on. All right, let's go to our next play. We're knocking these out. We're going to, like I said, I told everybody we're going to run just a tad late tonight because this is all good stuff. Now, this one is Bill LeMonnier all the way. So, Bill, this one is in your wheelhouse. This is the call that you probably had to deal with the most. And this is one of those calls that if you're out there as a referee, this is one of your bread and butter calls, and you got to be ready for it. All right, I'm going to pull down the text line, and here we go. Here's the play. Focus in on the focus in on the quarterback. You're going to get a couple views of this. You're going to get a close-up view of this. Here we go. There's the ball. The ball is actually going the other way. And I'm going to play it again, and I want you to look at the referee. The referee is going to come in and signal this as an incomplete pass. That's what he has. All right? But look at the close-up. You know, you have to ask yourself, like I said, this is the referee's bread and butter. You're going to see these. These are big plays. These are turnovers. These are potential momentum swings if the defense gets the ball. So it's important that we get this call right. Bill, you've ruled on many of these throughout your career. On this play, what do you think? How are you going to rule? And give us some philosophy. Remind us of the philosophy of how we make the judgment as a referee on a play like this.
Well, if you have doubt, we've always said go pass because you don't want to have a cheap turnover. You know, the offensive line doesn't know where the ball is. The defensive line does. Do you want to have a cheap turnover? The critical thing to it is that you have to recognize when a quarterback is right now in that position where he's locked on a receiver. I want to know about that quarterback's arm and that hand, particularly the hand. And I need to put all my attention there. If I miss a holding call, so what? But I need to know who's going to possess this football, whether it's because I rule it an incomplete pass or because and the offense keeps the ball, or I rule it a fumble, and most likely the defense recovers the ball. So, you know, the most important thing I've got right now, as soon as he locks on, is to narrow my point of vision and get to that hand of the quarterback. I've got a fumble. I think he took it off his hand prior to the hand starting forward. The hand came forward, it was empty. So this one's a fumble.
All right, so you got a fumble, and you know we've talked about before, and maybe we can just real quick about like the direction of the ball, like making that judgment. Like you talked about when this happens, yeah, we have to focus. But what are some tricks to like if I see the ball do this or if I see the ball do that? I know if there's any doubt, we don't want to give a cheap turnover. But when a ball comes back at me as a referee, I'm thinking fumble because how does a pass go backwards?
Yeah, I mean he took it right off his hand. So that might be one clue to it. You know, you look at if the ball comes out of his hand or looks like it came out of his hand forward, you look for a possibility of is the ball in a good spiral? Is it wobbling? Is it, you know, you look for if it was loose in his hand, did he push it forward rather than throw it forward? So you look for things like that. You might even look at the quick reaction of the quarterback. You know,
yeah. Does he go for the ball, right?
if he turns around and dives for the thing, I'm telling you, I hope you were patient on your whistle because it's a fumble.
It's a fumble.
He knew it, you know.
Exactly. All right, Robert. Any disagreements, agreements? What do you got?
All the viewers on this side are saying it's a fumble. But Brian from Alaska says there is a positive takeaway in that the referee was coming in hard to sell the decision. That's what we have to do, right? We have to be compelling when we make a decision.
I don't disagree with that at all. I disagree with the call. I agree with Bill, but I am with he made the call. We don't have replay. Yeah. We talked about this on our best practices. You know, the call on the field stands. Guess what? The call on the field stands. And he made a call. Oh, well, he'll look at the film and be better the next time. But anything else before we can move on here?
We can move on, Tim. Great stuff.
We can move on. All right, we're going to go to our next play. We'll get that ready to go. Just a few more here. This is a good one. This is one of my favorite ones, and I think it's because I think it's really going to break us down as to when the game matters in these tight playoff games that could determine if somebody advances or not. And we don't want to be part of it. We don't want to be called into question. We want our calls to be strong. So this is one of those where I think is a great discussion. So it's all going to happen. I'm pull down the text. It's all going to happen at the end of the play here. So as we go, you're going to see it's a pass that's caught. Now watch what happens at the end of the play. We got this, and then there's like, whoops, you're going to see slow motion, and it's like, all right, So the question is, and I'll let it play one more time. I'm going to let it play in real time, and I'll start out with Mike on this one. So Mike, we'll get Mike's opinion on it. Here you go. You'll see it again in slow motion, close up. So the question becomes, on a play like this, do you want to? Is this a UNR? Are we calling this an unnecessary roughness, or is this just a slip on the mat? Where is that line drawn, Mike, in your eyes on a play like this? What do you think?
Well, anytime the contact starts clearly in bounds, this contact certainly did start in bounds, I'm looking for a distinct second act out of bounds. And that just doesn't happen here. He continues going to the ground. He doesn't spin him. He doesn't throw him. He actually ends up separating from him as they hit the ground. So no, this is not a foul for unnecessary roughness.
So you're seeing us play one more time. So there you go. He's slipping his own, is this his own accord or, separation, blah, blah, blah. So, yep. So that's what Mike has. Mike doesn't have this as a foul, which, I think I might agree with you, Mike. And here's my take on this before we go to Robert. It looks bad. We mentioned this before. Funky is not a foul. It looks funky, but is it a foul? You have to break it down. You can't. Sometimes your gut might tell you, well, it looks bad and it could happen over there and they're going to be mad. But it doesn't matter, because if you throw a 15-yard penalty for a guy slipping on a mat, it could change the game. It can change the momentum of a game, and when it's undeserved. So take your time. See the whole play. Know what you call. A play like this, there might be people out there who disagree and think maybe the contact, where there was a second act, he pulled them, which caused the slip. If that's what you have, then hopefully you'll be able to explain it. I don't agree with it. I think, and it wasn't called, by the way. There was no foul called on this play. But it's a very good one to point out about not having those, taking a second to take a second look. Robert, tell us what's going on out there in the chat world and the text world.
Yeah, everyone supports that there's no foul here. There was a slip. And although some say, yeah, it's deep into the zone, meaning in the white, as we would say, but there's no leverage hit there. There's no second act, like Mike said. Now, it's very important as officials to come in as a back judge, as a wing pivot, get in there and be vocal, visible, and in the vicinity to prevent anything extra, because you're going to have emotions, right? You're going to have emotions. Brian from Alaska is mentioning, okay, when you have a ball handler going into his own sideline, and there's a questionable hit. Was it late? Was it not? You may have some vocal and some players and coaches go out of their minds trying to vocalize their influence on an official. But you got to get in there, get that player out of there, get that defender out of there, and mitigate that emotion that's occurring in that zone.
No, I think that's a good point, and because you're going to have people who might be upset about it, but I agree, no foul, and let's move on to our next play. We're just rolling along here. All right, so pull the text line down. So you see the shadow. So this is obviously the player we are going to focus on this play. And for all you back judges out there, this one might be in your wheelhouse, or line scrimmage too. But you can see what happens. Ends up looking like a screen, and then we've got this block, and you're going to get a close-up of it here. So the question for the group and for everybody out there is, you see our player, it ends up being an incomplete pass, an incomplete screen pass, but there is a flag, illegal blindside block, or are we going legal on this one first? So that's the first question you need to ask yourself. Are you calling this an illegal blindside block? We did a whole thing on crackback blocks the other day on our TikTok feed about, yeah, this is a block against the grain, and this looks to be illegal, and our back judge is right on it in regards to, he throws his flag, and he's deeming this as an illegal blindside block. But the point being is that, and I'm actually going to bring Robert in first on this because Robert is the back judge of our group here, about all the traffic here and being able to stay with your key on a play like this, or even go to zone, and this is right down the middle, to be able to pick up a potential safety foul like this. So going to Robert. Robert, do you have this? Would you agree with the back judge on this play with an illegal blindside block? And talk about how, when you're working a play like this, kind of moving through the noise to get to a block like this.
Yeah, this one does jump out at me. And I'm going to communicate. I'm going to throw my flag. I got a flag for a personal foul, blindside block on this play. And I'm going to use some key words on my 020 so the wing official can share with the coach, because they're going to ask, what did he do? He crouched and he thrusted. Now, one may even say, oh gosh, but he extended his arms. No, he crouched and he thrusted. That's the force. The arm extension happened after, right? So I got 3 elements. I had a crouch and I had a thrust, and then you had the release of the arms. But that's very important, because I'm going to support this flag. I'm going to love my flag. I'm going to make it be there because it is a safety foul. And that's how I'm going to explain it on the 020. As far as progressing from the outside receiver coming in, well, that's kind of easy. As a back judge, if you get in a natural condition to allow the play to develop in front of you, this play does just exactly that. It actually evolves right in front of you. You don't have to search for anything. That's where all the action's at. There's spacing everywhere else. If you're looking anywhere else, then you're looking at air. Because look how much wide space there is, except for that contact. So the back judge, there's really no excuse for you passing on this situation. You should have your eyes here and a flag down on this play.
All right, so that's what Robert has, and he agrees. So one of the things I want to talk about is the penalty enforcement on this play. If it was flagged for an illegal blindside block, and as Robert pointed out, rightfully so, because it sure does appear to be that. So if you look, there's the play. Go back wide on the play. So you're asking yourself, oh, what type of play is this? Now, it's an incomplete pass. So these are all important things. What's the result of the play? The result of the play is an incomplete pass. We have a foul for an illegal blindside block. Where does that foul occur? That foul occurs beyond the neutral zone, beyond the line of scrimmage, right? Because our line of scrimmage is, well, we'll call it, looks like the 16-ish. We don't get the best angle here, but that's definitely down, maybe right at the 15, maybe right at the line of scrimmage, but we'll say it's beyond the line of scrimmage. So if it's beyond the line of scrimmage, we have a loose ball play, incomplete pass, all right? So, all right, this is great. We've got a loose ball play, incomplete pass, a foul by the offensive team. Okay, so where are we this is a basic spot enforcement. Our basic spot on this play is the previous spot. So it's not the spot of the foul. Why? Because the foul doesn't occur behind the basic spot. It occurs beyond it. So our basic spot is the line of scrimmage, the previous line of scrimmage, the previous spot. We would walk this 15-yard penalty from the 16 or the 17, wherever the previous spot ended up being on this play. Remember that's important, because now we have an incomplete pass. So that's the other thing, because what are we going to do with the clock? All right, what are we going to do with the clock on this one? Oh yeah, it's an incomplete pass, Tim. The clock should start on the snap. Well, what if we're under 2 minutes? What if we're under 2 minutes? I see Mike. I'm gonna go to Mike on this one. Mike, what if we're under 2 minutes, Mike, and I'm the team that's down, or I'm the team that's up, and I want this clock. Hey, I got this rule. I can start the clock, right? Because I have a penalty. Can I start? If I'm that team that wants that clock to start, I don't want this incomplete pass. Do I have that ability to do that?
You got it backwards, Coach. You can only go on the snap if you want to. You can't change a snap into going on the ready. So
yeah,
no.
Remember that.
We have a number of people in the chat asking about whether the umpire could reliably watch this block, because the umpire has linemen and the umpire has the pass, helping on the pass, complete or incomplete. Can we discuss briefly the umpire's progression keys and mechanics on how he might be able to see or not see this block?
Absolutely. So I'm not putting this on the umpire at all because the umpire is focusing on the line of scrimmage players, or I mean, well, I should say the linemen. He's looking at the linemen. Could he be moving up maybe a little bit? He is. He's starting to walk. He's starting to walk up, but he's still. I mean, he's looking at this back zone. He's catching this. He's not seeing this player come across the top and make this block. If he catches it, he's catching it at the end. He's not seeing the full block. So I'm not putting this one on the umpire at all. He catches the end of it. And, you know, if we always preach about seeing the beginning, the middle, the end. Just because we see a guy on the ground doesn't necessarily mean if I'm the umpire, I'm throwing on this. This is the back judge's key the whole way, or in his zone the whole way. Back judge, back judge, back judge. And I'm glad the back judge got it because this was a biggie on this. So before we move on to our next one, Robert, anybody else on this one are we done? Are we good?
We're great. Yeah, we can move on.
All right, let's move on. A few more, guys. Stick with us. We only got 2 more plays, and we're doing pretty well. So we're only about 10 minutes over. And so just stick with us here. We're almost done. All right, this is a good one. Okay, this is a philosophy one. And this is one of those where, once again, we want them to be big. And this could be or this might not. I'm going to be curious to hear everybody's opinion, and Bill is on the clock on this one. Bill LeMonnier, we're going to go to you first on this. All right, so here you go. Focus in on our player here that is highlighted. You're going to see this from 2 different angles. You're going to see this from this angle. You're going to get the end zone shot as well. Question is this holding or is this not? Is this a legal block or is this holding? You'll get the end zone shot here. You'll also get a replay of it in slow motion. So here we go. Number 10 there on the outside. Is this a hold or is this just overpowering? He turns the corner. It's definitely point of attack. Here we'll start at the beginning in real time again, just so everybody can see. Here you go. There it is from the side. That tells us one thing. Now let's look at the end zone shot in real time. This tells us something else. Here we go. You're going to see it now in slow motion on this play, and it's kind of tight, but definitely point of attack. Definitely something that needs to be addressed one way or the other. So, Bill, what do you got? If you're the referee, catch this from behind, or you happen to be the wing official or something, what are you calling on this?
The offensive player's put himself in jeopardy because at one point he's got his left arm to the outside and grabbing the arm, and then as the play moves, his right arm is to the outside too. He's not keeping the hands inside tight. If he'd have kept the hands inside, he might have even had a good grab of the jersey and just overpowered him. He'd have been okay. But when the hands get outside and that type of a takedown occurs, offensive holding.
So showing it again, you've got the hold here. Is that what you're saying? Just make sure.
Sure.
So you got a hold. Here you go. You'll see it one more time. All right, here we go. Hold. I like Bill's breakdown, especially even on the slow motion, because you can see right now he's already outside. He's kind of outside the frame. He's got an arm here that's to the left, and then now if he lets go, he's probably all right, but now he's not. Does he get back around him? But he's still got that hold. Does he let him release? I can see where maybe somebody would pass on that because they might think 10 he got around. Does he keep his feet? Yeah, but I think he's using a lot of arms, so I tend to agree with Bill.
He's also been turned to the inside. I mean, his back is totally to the runner as the runner goes to the outside. That's not where that defender wants to be.
No, that's a great point. It's not where the defender wants to be. So Bill's going holding on this one, and like I said, I agree. I see Mike raising his hand, so before we go to Robert, Mike, what do you got?
YouTube is consistent. Good block. Good.
They like that. They don't want this call as a hold, huh?
The opinion is that the defender took a route to the inside, and the blocker took him where he wanted to go.
That's interesting. Here, we'll go back to it here. They're saying that he took the route to the inside. It's funny because but let's talk about that. That's a great point. Does he go to the inside? And I'm going to actually pull up the draw feature here, and then we're going to go to Robert and see what everybody's saying on the other side. So here it is again. You see him. All right. So now right there, does he go, like he tries to go to the inside. The runner actually jukes him to the inside. So the runner tries to juke to the inside, and then so the defender looks like he's going to the inside, and now needs to go back to the outside. So that's the thought, is that we'll go to the end zone shot here, is that right now he wants to go back in. It's kind of jerky at that point, of course, so you see it better on the side shot, but maybe on the slow motion. So he's riding him to the outside. Now he wants to go back in, and now the guy takes it back outside. So I don't know if I agree with that. And the only reason is because I think the defender is playing. We preach that we want the defender to continue to play football, to not just give up. If I'm trying to move to the inside, I'm trying because I see the runner go to the inside, so I'm going to go to the inside, and now the runner kicks out. I guess the argument can be, well, if I wasn't holding him as the offensive player, the player's still going to juke back around to the outside, and he's probably going to miss the tackle anyway. Well, then let him go. Let him go. Don't get outside the frame. And if you're the official, if you're on YouTube and you think, well, this isn't enough for me, fine. Then if you can explain it that way, then fine. This was called a hold by the sideline official. So I mean, I don't necessarily have an issue with the call. I can understand why maybe some people wouldn't call it though. All right, Robert, you're up, buddy. What do we got in chat land or text land or whatever?
Many viewers have it as a hold, but there are some who are arguing that the blocker pancaked them. Give him a sticker. Those type of comments too. So we have some real strong, great block viewers, but we have a lot of viewers that claim this is a hold. That's where we sit here, Tim.
That's where we sit. So here's the thing. These are why we get paid the big bucks. We say make it big. If you don't think it's big enough, if you want to pass on it because you don't believe it's big enough and it didn't have enough effect on the play for you, well, then you can explain it that way, and we shall move on. All right, on to our final play of the evening. And this is one of those where I'm glad I was able to find, because let me get the draw function up before we go to the play. This is, offensive pass interferences are tough to find from time to time, and so I'm glad I was able to find something like this that we can discuss for our last play. All right, let's go wide on it. You can see that the player is highlighted. We're going to keep an eye on that player. And here you go. You got a pass. All right, you're going to get a close-up. Is this OPI? Is this a box out? Is number 8 boxing out the defender, not allowing him to get to the pass? So here you go again. We're going to show it. And Robert, you're going to be up on this one first because you're the back judge. And even though the strength is to the other side, no, actually, the strength is to the other side, you're probably going to move over here pretty quick because there's nothing going on up to the top. So if you see this receiver do that, is that enough? Do you think that that's enough for OPI? Is number 8 preventing, by this type of contact, the defender from being able to make a play on this ball? So, Robert, what do you have?
No, I'm not going to love my flag. It didn't even look that promising in slow motion. So I'm not searching to throw my flag. I'm aware of the situation, but no, to me, it's just not enough.
All right, it's not enough for Robert. How about Mr. Bill Lamagna? Bill, is that going to be enough for you?
I think it's suspect. He had the intent of trying to get some body into somebody, but he wasn't very successful at it. So he's off the hook. No OPI.
So you're going no OPI. And finally, Mike, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there in YouTube land that might have an idea on this. What do you got, Mike?
Yeah, they have not enough contact. There's no, and my words would be no material restriction. So, he's allowed to get to a spot without contact. He's not allowed to box out physically, but that defender doesn't appear to lose anything, and there's no material restriction.
So let's go back to the play, 'cause that's a good point about not losing anything. The wide shot, slow motion. Does he really take away? Is he just getting in the way? Is it? That's a really good point. I would say When a play like this happens, though, we better be aware of it. We better be on our game and be able to explain why we aren't going to call something like this. So before we call it a night, there's something serious that I'd like to talk about before we leave, and I'm not going to show it because I think we've all seen it. There was an incident in one of the NFL games, incident, whatever you want to call it, where the officials were asking for an autograph, or what appeared to be, allegedly, because we don't know exactly what was being asked for. That's very important. But this is about perception, okay? The perception is that they were asking for an autograph. And as officials, we have to be aware, especially these high-profile playoff games as we start to move up through the levels. We're being looked at through a microscope, okay? It's just the way it is. It's just part of what we do. Is it fair? No, it's not fair. It's not fair at all. But we have to understand that going into these games, how we walk. The minute we get out of our cars and start walking into a building or walking into a locker room, we're being judged. In the locker room, we're being judged. How you leave the locker room after the game, before the game, how you act in the locker room, you're being judged. When you walk out, you're being judged. Everything you do, is it fair? It's not fair. No, it's not fair at all. But just understand that you are, and when you go to these games, be as professional as possible. I've got one last thing that I'm going to throw up here, and it's our motto. It's the thing we do the most. What we want to make sure, whatever happens, make them be big. Whatever you call this playoff season, whatever it is, make them be big. That's the last thing I'm going to leave you with. But before we do that, I want to run around and say thank you to our panel. There he is. Mike, any last comments or anything that anybody has to say before we call it a night? I want to thank you for being here all season, for all the work that you've done to help make our officials better. Thank you very much. Do you got anything to add here before we call it a night?
Hey, it was a great meeting. The audience here was a really great audience. There was a lot of good comments. It was a real honor to be part of the panel for the whole year too. You do such a great job curating plays, and just when you threw that OPI one at the end, I was like, yes, I can't get enough of the OPI decisions. So yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's a great organization to be a part of.
Well, Mike, really appreciate the work that you do, and being out there and taking some time, because this does take some time to do this. So thank you a ton. Mr. Bill Lamagnier, taking the time as well. He's going to be on the road. You're going to see Bill, all the way through the national championship, right, Bill? You got lots more football coming your way.
Oh yeah, we got a few more weeks to go, and then the bowl games, playoffs, championship. But just remember about the perception reality thing. You can do something about reality. But when it comes to perception, you put it in the hands of other people. It's not in your hands anymore. And they're going to twist it, turn it, because of their views on things. So, be smart at what you do. And especially, years ago when I was just starting out in officiating, or in the middle of my officiating, everybody didn't walk around with an iPhone and a camera or taking pictures or videos. And that's happening everywhere now. Be careful what you do out there, whether somebody's got a camera or not. You need to be totally professional about your approach to this.
I couldn't agree more. And it's unfortunate sometimes, but yep, that's where. But thank you for all the work that you do for football officials and for being with us. Really appreciate it.
Not a problem.
And last but not least, Mr. Robert Ybarra. Any last minute texts, questions, any comments or anything like that? But of course, thank you for all the work that you've done this year as well.
Well, you're the one who's steering the ship, Tim. You facilitated a fantastic meeting tonight. We had hundreds of viewers with us, great comments, great questions, great engagement. That's what this organization's all about, is to make it be there and improve the game through the officials. So excellent job. It's an honor to be here on the panel. Thank you.
All right, Robert. Well, thank you very much. I want to thank everybody who joined us tonight. This was a lot of fun. We're going to enter the playoffs better for it, all of us. When you go out there, make them be big. Make them be big. don't search for them. They'll come to you. If they'll be like, oh yeah, that's a foul. Don't overthink it. Penalty enforcement. Make sure we do that right. Take our time with penalty enforcement. Know the type of play, know the result of the play. Do the things, do the mechanics. Roll the clock when you're supposed to roll the clock. Kill the clock when signal a possession. Do the things. Look crisp, and guess what? We're going to all look great moving on to next year. We will be back after the first of the year. We'll pull Mr. Lamagna in. He'll probably have some great stories to tell us about all the bowl games that he got to do. So you don't want to miss that. Some crazy plays I'm sure will happen. They do every year. For MIBTonline.com, I want to thank everybody who watched, all our subscribers. If you're not a subscriber, please consider being a subscriber. If you are not a football official, hopefully you learned something today. Follow us on all our social media stuff: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. You're gonna see me for a long. I'm gonna do stuff all the time. So we might be done with our live meetings, but you'll still see some stuff from me as we continue throughout the playoffs until the end of the year. Until 2023, God willing and all, we'll see you then. I'm Tim Kiefer from MIBTonline.com. Have a great night and good luck in the playoffs. Make them be big.